Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah, and Allie is at a best friend's wedding, and so I am joined by the one and only. You know him from the NWSL crew. He's not Chris, so he's got to be Tim. Thank you so much for joining me, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I was going to say yes. I'm definitely not Allie. I can try for my best good day or however they usually say it.
That
I
was
can't
bold.
do it. Yeah, I don't have the same finesse. I don't have the same articulation that they have. So I'll have to work on that for sure.
I think you might be the first person I've met that's worse at accents than I am.
Oh my God.
But anyways, that doesn't matter because what you can do is talk soccer or football. And I'm so pumped for this because I feel like this is a fun fact. For the World Cup, you joined Allie for this exact episode, end of the group stages, right? But instead, you're here for this one. It all works out full circle perfectly. And let's do it, everybody. We are here to talk, of course, the Olympics, match day 3 of the group stage. Group stages are over. We have our quarterfinalists. These teams, of course, have been separated into 2 sides of the bracket. We're going to call it the left side of the bracket and the right side of the bracket. On the left side, we have France facing Brazil and Spain facing Colombia. On the right side, USA facing Japan and Canada taking on Germany. First impressions, Tim, which were you most excited for?
Looking at these, I think my initial impression is that I mean, the field is stacked, but the field was always stacked. Every game, it doesn't really matter where you finished. Every game is a good team. I'm most interested, I guess, for the matchup of Canada versus Germany. I think
Really?
I think, well, Canada, we'll get into this, is in such a unique and galvanized position right now from the players' perspective, and they're really scraping out some clutch performances, mostly on the back of Vanessa Gilles' headers. But, Germany has been kind of on fire, but kind of not on fire at the same time. So I think that's just going to be a really fun pairing. Those are 2 teams from my recollection. I don't think they really play each other very much in terms of international friendlies. I don't remember Canada really scheduling any matches against Germany. I don't remember them being really in group stages together. So I think it's just 2 unfamiliar teams that are both top 10 opponents that will both be really physical, are both kind of figuring things out. Canada, from a coaching perspective, Germany are still kind of figuring out their midfield structure. So I think that's just going to be a really fun matchup.
Arguably, all 3 of the matchups that are not USA Japan are all matchups that we have really yet to see a lot in the women's game. And we'll come on to all of that. Here's what we're going to do in this episode, everybody. We are going to go through group by group, just talk through, honestly, general vibes of how this group turned out, how the teams played, how they fared. We will say our goodbyes to those who have left us. And then at the end, what everybody is waiting for, of course, previews and predictions for the quarterfinals. But before we get into Group A, which we're going to kick it off with, because you just got to go alphabetically, a couple I don't want to call it news, but just like quick hits from this last group stage game. First and foremost, we're going to hit on all of these things, but Australia, they miss out by just 1 point. They're out and they missed out by 1 point of goal differential. Brazil advanced as the final 3rd place team with a -2 goal differential. Australia ended with -3. Marta, probably question mark, played her final match of the Olympics ever. Again, we'll come on to that. She got a red card in injury time of the first half of the Brazil game. Canada, the hot topic of all hot topics in the women's soccer world right now, advanced despite starting at -6 points. They have advanced. And that leaves us with New Zealand, Zambia, and Nigeria having been eliminated along with Australia from the tournament. We're going to get into all of this, like I said, but before we jump right in, I feel like this is a weird place to put it, but we want to talk about the world feed, Tim. The world feed is something that at a certain point, we're all watching the same commentator, which in certain ways is very cool, but it's become an issue to the point where I feel like it warrants complaining on the podcast about.
Yeah, well, it's not cool if they're bad. Like it's cool from a unity perspective that we're all kind of like experiencing the same thing, I guess. Like someone in a different continent is experiencing the exact same thing I'm experiencing. But that's not cool if what we're experiencing is maybe not the level of quality of product that the quality of product on the field is demanding. Like we are seeing really high level athletes
Mhm.
that are the top of their game, playing some really excellent soccer. And then some of these world feed commentators I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, you're saying things about these players, like you clearly know nothing about them. You mentioned, Sarah, a lot of like mispronunciation of names. Like, it's just kind of crazy. These people are paid a lot of money to do this stuff. And granted, I can't pronounce some of these names either, but I'm not the one who's been given the deck of all the audio files of all the names to practice. So I don't know. What do you think?
It blows my mind, honestly. It infuriates me also because I know this isn't just exclusive to soccer. Like, this is happening across all of the sports in the Olympics that get world feeds. And for some reason, it's always the ones that end up with these like slightly misogynistic comments laid in underneath. And it just feels like these people who are still existing in a world 20 years ago are now commenting on sports. And we're just beyond that now. And it deserves more respect. And that's what it feels like, truly. Like listening to some of these world feeds, it feels like whoever is on the mic doesn't have the respect for the women's game, and it's translating. It's incredibly disappointing. But the ones that haven't been world feed, I've really enjoyed. I'll say that. All right,
Agree.
let's get into it. Group A, France advanced number 1, Canada in second, Colombia get the third spot. Final scores of the third group stage match were Canada 1-0 over Colombia, France 2-1 over New Zealand. We almost had quite the shocker. For a moment, it looked like France and New Zealand were going to draw and blow everything up. That is not what happened. France took it, and New Zealand exits the tournament. I think maybe the way to kick this off is I feel like we have to talk about Canada first. Like, how can we not? And I'm going to say something that's going to probably upset a lot of the Canadians, and I'm really sorry for this, but I just have to say, if Canada weren't in this group, which in my opinion is arguably the weakest group, would they be advancing? And that's not to take away from what they just did. They just won 3 out of 3 games amid all of this. But I think it has to be noted.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably agree with this statement. I mean, in the sense that it is the weakest group of the three. I mean, typically the group that has the host nation of any major international tournament is the weakest group. That's kind of usually how it goes. That being said, France as a host is definitely one of the stronger hosts that we've had in the past few major international tournaments. However, I mean, looking at these teams, I mean, this is the least strong group. It's impossible really to speculate what would have happened in other groups.
Yeah.
I want to point out that like I think this is so impressive for Canada to not only advance out of the group, but advance out of the group in the number 2 spot, winning 3 out of 3 games. Like, this is nuts. This is crazy. So impressive from the perspective of the players who really are working with an assistant coach leading them. But I don't, we're not privy to what degree this coach has been involved in different parts of the strategy. Sometimes coaches are more attacking, they're more defensive, they're goalkeeper, they're set piece. I don't know what level of involvement this coach that's leading them has had in different aspects of their strategy and game. And that pretty much tells me that the players are self-coaching and really going out there and just being like, screw you all. We know that we did nothing wrong, which obviously we agree here.
Yes.
I mean, we agree that the players did absolutely nothing wrong. It's not their fault that I think you and Ali, Sarah, said on the podcast that great quote from that one journalist who was essentially mentioning that it was the ultimate betrayal of the staff members against the players. These players have essentially said, well, screw you all. We're going to go out there and we're going to lay our hearts on the field and we're going to do it anyways. And they did. And it's been amazing. Has it been pretty? Nope. But has any Canada women's soccer game in the past 10 years been a pretty win? No, but this is how they do it, right?
Yeah, it's
This is
true.
what they do. They are Olympic tournament powerhouses specifically for a reason,
Yeah.
because they know how to grind out these results
Yeah.
in moments that matter. And when it's a tournament like the Olympics where there's less opportunities to make mistakes, mentalities like this really matter and really shine. So kudos to them. Super impressive.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy to me too that looking at like this group, not only do they have like they finished second, but they scored a lot more. I mean, I don't sound weird, but they scored a lot more goals than I was expecting Canada to score. Usually they're like getting some like 1-0 wins, some like
Mhm.
1-1 draws, 0-0 draws. They're scraping out results. But to generate 5 goals in 3 matches is really great for this Canada side. Kudos to them for kind of picking it up offensively, especially hanging on and getting some late goals. That's
Yeah.
super impressive because it's been hot. So,
I will say too, not just 5 goals scored, they finished with the best goal differential in the group. That's better goal differential than France as well. I concur. I completely agree with everything you just said. I think you could see it at the end of this final game of the group stages and what it meant to Canada and to those players when they won. And you can't, it was one of those moments where you couldn't really help but feel happy for them, kind of get a little goosebumpy, teary eyed yourself to see what it meant. I mean, the way they were celebrating, you would have thought that they just advanced to the final, to the gold medal match. You know, like it means a lot to them and you can feel it. And you said, like you said it yourself, they are good at the Olympics. They're good at tournament football. I'll add in, I had the pleasure of interviewing Jordan Heidema, and she was talking about how Canada believes that they can win the Olympics because of the squad depth and that it's not about the best 11 players in the Olympics, it's about the best 18 players. And that it's more and more true the later on you get into the tournament. And frankly, I think that this is just the start. I think this is just the beginning of it for Canada. They can do anything moving forward. It is just when we take a step back though, wild that they advanced not even in a third place spot after what has been going on. And for all of the stuff with the Federation and how negatively that impacted the players, this seems to be galvanizing them in a way. And that's really beautiful to see. All right. They faced Colombia in this final group stage game. They took it 1-0, and notably, Colombia were missing Myra Ramirez. Her red card was supposed to be a 1-game suspension, which would have been the second game. And then they added a game suspension to it the day before the third match day. So Myra Ramirez was missing from the Colombia team as well. So arguably for me, if I'm to comment on Colombia, my main thing to say is that we haven't seen a full force Colombia since they faced France in their first game where they lost 3-2. I would be scared if I was facing a Colombia with a Myra Ramirez who just returned for the quarters. How do you feel about Colombia's performance in these group stage games and moving forward?
I mean, I think Colombia, really sparkled in at the World Cup in 2023. They were the darlings. They took the audience by storm with some electric performances. And so I think we were expecting more of that. I think that was maybe a little bit of an unrealistic expectation for a few reasons. One of them being that this is the Olympics, and so each group is really, really strong. You're every opponent you face is a top side. And so you're not really going to get as many opportunities against maybe less experienced opponents as you might get in a World Cup group stage. So maybe that should have tempered our expectations, as well as a team like Colombia doesn't have the same, you just mentioned for Canada, Sarah, that squad depth that Canada really has a very little drop off. They're probably one of the best teams in that regard from their 11 to 18 or 11 to 22. There's very little drop off. Colombia is maybe not one of those teams, right? They really do rely on a really solid starting 11. And tournaments like the Olympics, with only 2 days of rest in between, famously, it's going to be hard for teams like this to make it through. Another reason to kind of temper our expectations a little bit after that electric performance in 2023. So I think how they finished was very realistic. Like before we knew about all the Canada drama, all that stuff, right? we probably would have expected Colombia to finish either second or third in this group. I predicted them to finish third in this group just because
I had
Canada
them
is
at two,
so.
for the record. I'm sorry, Canadians. You're gonna
I
think I
wasn't gonna.
hate you, but I don't. I really don't.
I was not gonna put you on blast, and then you just put yourself on blast, and I'm like,
It's hard to defend the title. That's my and plus they've been affected by the federation. Those were my reasons.
very true, very true. I just think that for me, with Colombia's less experience in major international tournaments, a
Mm.
tournament so strenuous as the Olympics, I was favoring Canada personally. So this is pretty much how I figured it would shake out. So I guess no surprises in that regard. I was Can't lie, I was hoping for a little bit of Linda Caicedo magic, but I know she took a knock in the first game. We don't know
Yeah.
to what degree that has affected the rest of her performances. I don't know, but yeah, Colombia is kind of. I
Well,
really hope that they can develop that depth and really take it to the
mm,
next level because I feel like they're kind of at this crossroads where they can continue to be this fan favorite, this darling of the tournament who doesn't really like go that far, or they can really invest, really develop like the talent pool, really expand the domestic league, and really create something special because clearly they're doing something right because some of these players are so good.
yeah. I mean, I mentioned to you at the end of that Canada Colombia game, it felt like either Linda Caicedo scores or Colombia doesn't score. And I think that speaks to exactly what you're saying. The depth. It needs to be there. And I hold my hands up. I was wrong about Canada. I hold my hands up there. But moving on, let's talk about the hosts. France, top of the group, a team that we were like, which France is going to show up here? Tim, which France has showed up here, or have we seen multiple of them?
I don't I don't know what's going on here, to be honest. Like this has been a weird
Yeah.
group stage from France. I mean, it goes without saying that they're finishing first in the group but only have a +1 goal differential, just because of obviously the Canadian points thing. And if that didn't
Mhm.
happen, Canada would be first in the group and all that stuff. I get that. But that just kind of shows you how bizarre this whole situation is. And once again, I really don't feel like France is achieving at the levels that we know they can. Yeah, you're scoring 6 goals for, but 5 goals against. I mean, when you have really good defenders like Salma Basha, Karchawi, Wendy Renard is maybe in the later years of her career, but still a really solid, really serviceable player by any means, and an amazing organizer and leader. So you have really good players on this team in the defense as well. And I don't get it. Like these teams shouldn't be putting this many goals against you. Like teams like you should not be conceding to New Zealand in a group stage of a major international tournament. I feel bad saying it, but New Zealand is just not at when you look at the roster side by side to France, that should be a shutout for you. You should be disappointed with anything but a shutout. And New Zealand, if I remember correctly, scored on France. So these are things these are mistakes that are really going to cost you in the knockout stages. If you're allowing goals against squads that are ranked below you, how do you expect fair against squads that are ranked above you? I don't
I
know.
think that's a great transition into New Zealand, who I think had a great tournament in terms of New Zealand. And this is a team that truly almost advanced. I kind of couldn't believe they didn't in the World Cup, but they did not advance in the World Cup, but they played their hearts out and they kind of surprised everybody. And they've continued that into this year. This is the new constant for New Zealand, and they've really gotten better. And it's been really wonderful to see. They held their own. You just mentioned it was 1-1 against France for quite a while. They've held their own in this group, and a strong performance from the Ferns.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially when you consider that they're really without several of their
Mm-hmm.
longtime veteran stalwarts, right? I mean, famously, Ali Riley, no, like with a nerve issue, not able to compete in this tournament, was initially named to the squad, then had to withdraw. Hannah Wilkinson, not named to the squad. That's a
Shocked.
big blow for the offensive line. I didn't really do more digging or research into why that was. I don't know if it's a form thing. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I know there's been some issues with the coaching situation as well there. And I mean, so this is a team that has been going through their own issues. And I think the quality of performances, if you look away from the overall number of points that they earned in this group stage, the overall quality of performances were there. There were magical moments. I mean, we heard Ali talking about some of these games because I know Ali watched a lot more of New Zealand than I did. And they were so high and so excited on some of these individual players, but also on some of the team chemistry that was building. So
Mhm.
this is a team that I think really was using this tournament to try out some of these younger players, get that major tournament experience, build some connections that they hope to take into the next decade of tournaments. And hopefully they accomplish that here. But yeah, I thought they were solid overall. They performed better than I expected them to via the eyeball test.
I agree. I think it's only up and up here for the Ferns. I'm excited to see where they go. On to Group B. The US finishing first with 3 wins out of 3 games and 9 points. Germany in second with 6 points. That's 2 wins and a loss. And Australia finishing third. They failed to qualify by goal differential of just 1. And Zambia finished in fourth. Where to begin? I guess it should be noted the final match day 3 scores were USA 2-1 over Australia, Germany 4-1 over Zambia. I feel like we have to start with the Tillies because you are the most heartbroken over them, just missing out. Right. I have to, let me just say, I hope this is okay. Right before you hit record, you said you were heartbroken. And I said, why? They had a terrible tournament. I didn't think that they deserved to advance. And then you made a great point that they actually played the best in this final game against the US.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I've always had a soft spot for the Matildas. I really like
Me too.
I think their team chemistry off the field is so fun.
Yeah.
There's some great people, nice players, and on the field, they can be so deadly if they get it all together. They just seem like a team that sometimes it's together and sometimes it's not together, and you don't really know what you're going to get when. And tell you what, we got the team that was together for the last like 45 of this game against the US just now because you know what, this actually reminded me a little bit of the US in the World Cup this past summer. Had really slow start, a few really poor games. Then the US has their best performance against Sweden in the knockouts and still loses. That's kind of what this feels like. You
That's
know,
true.
the Matildas had, let's be honest, 2 very poor showings in the first 2 games. The
Yes.
defensive lapses were just frankly absurd and so uncharacteristic by some of these players. You look at some of these players, and they're some of the best, especially the outside back pairing, are some of the best outside backs in the world, in my opinion. So it was just shocking. But they really put it together in the second half for the US, and they were very threatening. They played the US exactly how they wanted to play. They didn't let the US the US wanted to slow the game down through like Lindsey Horan in the midfield. They did not let that happen. They made sure that the US had to keep the foot to the gas at all times and therefore expose themselves defensively. And it worked. And they were pushing and pushing. And I just, maybe because the US had already guaranteed to advance through, albeit not necessarily in the first place, but
Arguably, though, some have said maybe second spot would be better. So
I don't know.
that too.
I disagree because maybe we'll get to that in a second, but maybe I'll just talk about it now. The US, I think, really wanted to be on the opposite side of the bracket as Spain.
Yeah.
And so with Spain getting expected to get first in their group, if the US were to get second, although no, because Germany is still on our side of the bracket.
Yeah, well, so we're on the other side of the bracket from Spain, but it does align that, we could play Germany in the semifinal. But we're on the opposite side of the bracket from Spain. So if we were to meet Spain, it would have to be in a final or a bronze medal match.
Yeah, I think as long as the US were on the opposite side, or anyone, as long as anyone going to
avoid Spain at all costs.
Avoid Spain until you absolutely have to, because they are still by hands down the favorite to win this tournament. They're playing like incredible. They're flying.
Yeah.
But yeah, this game, I really wanted Australia to just get the draw. Like, I'm diehard US fan here, put myself on blast, but I really wanted them to get a second goal. I really wanted an equalizer. It would have been so just fun, and I was just so swept up in the moment of the magnitude of the match and It was so much fun, and I was really hoping the Matildas would get it. And I'm heartbroken for them because, like I said, they deserved to get, I think, to get an extra goal out of that. I thought they played so well. I thought they were so dangerous towards the end of the game. And I yeah, I was pulling for them. I'm sad, but obviously very happy that the US won. So
I too have a soft spot for the Tillies. I have a Australia jersey that I did not wear on this day though. I was wearing my US jersey. Thank you very much. But they weren't the Tillies of 2023. And I think that I agree with you. I agree with everything you just said. It was a really solid final performance. They did put the US through it. They absolutely could have had an equalizer. And at the end of the day, the five back, I can't believe it took them so long to switch to a five back, but finally they come out in a five back. Best thing they could have done for themselves. And they really were able to open the game up. They're going to play counterattack anyway. So you might as well play a five back, stop that many goals from going in, play that counter. Maybe that's something they can move forward with. But this does also feel like a bit of an inflection point for the Matildas because the next major tournament is in 3 years. And all of these stars that you mentioned that we love so much are going to be past their prime. So who's to say what the future holds for the Matildas? Obviously, they'll be missed. But I guess to move us along, if we're talking heartbreak, I'm going to point to the team in Group B that I'm just most heartbroken for and maybe always am right now, which is Zambia. And I guess I want to try to frame this as a positive because it's so heartbreaking to have to talk about all the time. This is a team that, I mean, they gave us the thriller of a lifetime against Australia. That was a heartbreaker for me. I thought Zambia should have had that one. Heartbreaking for them that they lost it. And they come up with 0 points in the tournament. And just their performances were better than that. They were better than 0 points. It's a team that deserved to go home with more than that. And you think about what they've come up against with their coach being an abuser, with the federation not giving them any funding, with their two star players in Barbara Branda and Rachel Kundananji not playing in certain qualifying tournaments, almost not being able to play in the Olympics because their gender was in question. I mean, the list goes on, and I just hope for a day. I'm kind of tired of saying that, enough is enough and it needs to be better, but what else can we do right now other than keep it in the spotlight and to say that their performance this tournament was outstanding. Outstanding.
yeah, all I can say is some billionaire somewhere, if you're listening to this podcast, like go build a football developmental academy in Zambia. And I just want to see it. I want to see it. I think that's my take.
Maybe it's just Michelle Kang, period, but she can't save the whole soccer world. She did just invest $1 million in USA women's rugby, which is also pretty awesome.
I was gonna say she just saved rugby, so she can do a lot if she wants to. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk the other two teams in Group B, USA and Germany. Tim, dive right in, with whichever suits your fancy more.
I mean, I'm always going to prefer the US, but I think speaking on Germany, I think this was overall actually like pretty solid showing for them. Like they didn't fall into the same Zambia trap that Australia fell into. Like Australia really fell into that trap, right? And Germany came out there, they were structured, they were organized. Yeah, they conceded, but at the end of the day, they did not fall into the trap the same way Australia did. They played really well against Australia. And to be honest, they had some great moments against the US. For a team that lost their best player,
big statement.
Well, to be honest, I think that she's their best player.
That's fair, yeah.
Weeks before the tournament, like 1 to 2 weeks before the tournament starts.
The last game that they played before the Olympics began, yeah.
Yeah. And is playing with an interim head coach who has been with the team off and on, it sounds like, but is still just kind of a temporary presence. There's some unsteadiness. There's always going to be like a level of questioning in that kind of dynamic. I think this team has actually performed pretty well. Have they set the world on fire? Maybe not, but do you have to set the world on fire in the group stage? Do you want to maybe like show all your cards, or do you want to get through again in a really solid spot? They're not on the same side of the bracket as Spain. I think this is as good of a result as they could have hoped for. I mean, it didn't really matter at the end of the day if who got first or second in this group. Like you're still on the same side of the bracket. You still play
Mhm.
the other person in the next game anyways.
Mhm.
I don't see a problem with it.
I agree. I fully agree. I said after the Germany US game that I actually was still convinced by Germany of the game, even though they lost. They still played well, and it was against a very strong US attacking front line. So I fully agree. I think the odds of seeing a Germany US semifinal are high, but we'll come on to the predictions. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's do the final team in Group B, the United States of America. I have two things to say. The first is that I have so much hope for the first time since 2019.
Are you gonna cry?
No.
You sound like you're gonna cry. I'm like, I'm like, Sarah's talking about hope and she's crying and we're getting
No,
emotional. Wow. The Olympic spirit is really in abundance.
I am not emotional, but I am very happy. Not to an emotional degree though. I have hope for this team. However, Sam Coffey got her second yellow card in this final group stage game. That means because of yellow card accumulation, she will not play in the ever important quarterfinal on Saturday. And that, I think if you were to pick one player on the whole field that you're like, please don't get a yellow card accumulation, I think it's either her or Naomi Girma for me, where it's just like, how long did we spend searching for the next Julie Ertz? And we got her. And the midfield is not very deep to begin with, which is the only reason I say, I'm not trying to say that she's the most valuable player on the team. I'm trying to say basically that we are shallow. Tierna Davidson is injured. Emily Sonnet would have been the next, I'm assuming, person to take the place for Sam Coffey, but Emily Sonnet is currently starting in place of Tierna Davidson. And so that leaves an even bigger gap in a midfield that was already not deep. For me, that's the biggest question mark going in to the next game. If it wasn't for that, I would be flying high, really with nothing else to say about the US. That is really the only note that I think needs to be obviously examined going into the quarterfinals. Because if I'm Japan, I'm exploiting that first and foremost from the start of the game.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting wrinkle. I will say that if, first of all, the yellow card I think was absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
It was, but then she did something at the end of the game that was like it should have warranted a yellow card. She didn't get a yellow card. And I remember having a feeling where I was like, oh, okay, it's evened out.
Maybe that's like karma. Like, yeah, like the scales are balanced. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that, like Coffee has put a lot of minutes on the wheels. And I think if you were going to rest a game, granted, this is the knockouts and you really shouldn't be resting any players at any point at this stage, but she has played a lot of minutes. And looking unbiased at the opponents, I'd rather have. I don't think we're going to have as much difficulty controlling the tempo of the game against Japan as we would against a team like Germany or Australia. So I think I would have rather had her for Germany and Australia. And I think if I had to pick a game, let's say if Japan was also in the group stage with Germany and Australia, if I had to pick one of those three games to rest her, I think this would have been the game anyways. Granted, I want her to be there. She's incredible. But I think that if the US wins against Japan, big if, because Japan's a really good side.
Big if.
If the US wins, I think this will have given Sam Coffey some needed rest and really set up the team well to excel in the rounds that essentially start counting for medals, right? So I think if the US wins, this might end up being a blessing in disguise, but I think that it's a big ol' if. Big ol' if.
It's definitely an if.
The questions come around how, like you alluded to, Sarah, how do you replace this hole, right? Because the natural replacement is already filling a different hole. So, and Emily Sams, who would be the other option at center back, really has no minutes with this team. So are you really going to start someone who's never set foot for the US national team in the knockout rounds of the Olympics?
You want to know what I think is going to happen? And this is a wild thing to say, but I'm going to say it. We saw in one of the games Emma Hayes test out a 4-2-2-2 formation, And I think we might just see that.
I think that would be fun.
It's
I
wild,
think
but it could happen.
I think this is an opportunity. So everyone's expecting her to just plug and play Corbin Albert, right?
Yeah.
Who,
That is
by
another
the way,
option.
shout out to an amazing goal today because that goal was
It was a screamer.
fire. Like, holy cow. But I think this is a really interesting option or opportunity for Emma Hayes to do something unexpected, right? She's
That's why I think it's a 4-2-2-2.
Yeah, she's rolled up pretty much the exact same lineup for 3 straight matches, and everyone's kind of expecting the same thing. I think everyone's kind of expecting her to just plug in Corbin Albert,
Mm.
and that's what everyone's expecting. That's what everyone's planning for. And I'm wondering if this is now the start of the point in that tournament where we start to see Emma Hayes do some of her more like mind games with other teams, have more actual influence on the game strategy versus building game team chemistry, because she's been very clear these group stage games were about playing the same group and developing chemistry. At some point, that has to change. You're playing better and better opponents every round, and you now have to impart some strategy into the game. I think this is a great opportunity for her to do that. I would love to see Crystal Dunn in the midfield and then throw in a Casey Kruger, but that's just me. I think that would be really fun, really unexpected, and I think it would be so, 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 so good. But I think that it's a really good opportunity to try something different and to kind of fool some teams and throw a team like Japan, who's so methodical and so calculated, throw them off their game a little bit, throw a wrench into their plans and see how they react to it. Because I think if you do that successfully, I think they won't react very well.
Final thing I'll say about the US, I agree with everything you just said. The final thing I'll say is that today's goal, because you mentioned Corbin Albert's goal, today's goal by her was the first goal of the tournament for the US men's national team that was not scored by a forward. And if you're wondering just how important the forward line in that starting front three, but also shout out Lynn Williams, who put one away as well, is to the US, it's everything. And they've been the story of the US. Let's not get it mistaken. They have been the story of the US this tournament. I know we're talking about the midfield because of this yellow card accumulation and because they're not as deep in the midfield, but I don't think it would be fair of us to comment on the US and not comment on the front three, because we do know what all of this is being attributed to, and it's how just dynamic they are in their offense. And I'll add Rosabelle in there because she's a little fairy running around the field. Not my words, Megan Rapinoe's words, calling her a little fairy. They're lethal, and they will be against any team.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football, including the women's game. Want all the stats in one place instead of drowning in a mountain of tabs? Want to explore key matchups and the tactics from both teams? Total Football Analysis provides the stats and analysis to help you learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for just €10. That's €40 of the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
Finally, Group C, Spain ends up in first place, 3 wins out of 3 games and 9 points. Japan in second with 6 points. That's 2 wins and a loss. And Brazil advances in the third spot with 3 points. They had 1 win and 2 losses. And we have to start with Brazil. We just have to. And I know there's plenty of other reasons we can start with anything else, but I want to start with Brazil because we got to talk about Marta. I'm like losing my words. Finally, we are here. We've arrived. We need to focus into that moment. Any of you who are watching live that were listening, I mean, I feel like that was a moment that shocked the soccer world. For me, that was equivalent to Megan Rapinoe going down in the NWSL final, and then nobody's able to focus on the game for the rest of the game because it's that massive. Marta gets a straight red card for a high boot. Immediately, tears start to fall down her face. Everybody in the field, doesn't matter which team, immediately knows the weight of this moment. Everybody is comforting her. It doesn't matter what color jersey they have on. And she's seen leaving the field in a puddle of tears. Obviously, Brazil have advanced, but a red card means that Marta won't play in the quarterfinal. She could have another game added on to the suspension. So we don't know if she would play in a semifinal if Brazil makes it. So we don't know if we'll see Marta again. This could have been the final game we see her play, frankly, in a Brazil uniform.
Yeah, that would be a big shame. I mean, I guess Marta just said that this is her last Olympics. She did not say that this would be her last international appearance. So I don't think this will be the last time we see Marta in a Brazilian uniform. I've heard some people saying that this is her last tournament, and that's not what she said. She said this is her last Olympic tournament.
Yeah, we don't know. It could be either.
I'm really hoping, I'm hoping she sticks it out for the World Cup in her home country. I think that would be absolute fire. But I guess I really agree with the call. It was so reckless and so dangerous. Does it stink for the player personally because of how much any athlete of any sport puts into preparing for an Olympic Games? Yeah, that stinks. But to be honest, it was really dangerous, and I think Marta just got swept up in the moment. She closed down the defender really fast, actually, like really fast. I was like, "Dang, good for you! I can't move that quick." And then she hyperextends this leg. I'm like, "Wow, I would have pulled a muscle." Like, I don't know how you can do that. Good for you, because that was a high boot. Like,
that was high boot, studs up, everything. You're right. It was a straight red card. Yeah, there's no other way to put it. It's heartbreaking. I want to do a whole like goodbye to Marta, but we're not going to, because we don't know if we will see her again. Maybe even in this tournament still. We don't know. But before we move on, we have to talk about Brazil at large. My comment on Brazil is, frankly, Marta's been such a key piece of their midfield. And even with Marta, they've been unconvincing. I don't see them faring well in the quarterfinals without Marta. But then again, they're facing France, who have also been hit or miss. But I'll say I'm still not convinced by them from the group stage.
Yeah, I think we just need to see more. I think we talked about this before too in previous episodes between you and Ali. But the team selection was weird. The coaching style seems to be weird. It just seems to not be really working for this team. I feel bad for the players because I think they have some really skilled players here. A lot of really good talent. I think they just need more defensive coaching, more structure. Yeah, I guess more just like really sound coaching. Like, that sounds so weird to say out loud because obviously teams need coaching, but they have all the skill and all the ability. They just need someone really to come into that program and just grab it by the scruff of the neck and be like, this is the plan, this is what we're doing, and get all the players on the same page. Because once that finally happens, like we've been saying for 5+ years, this team will be really good, but it just hasn't happened yet.
All right, let's do Spain next. They advanced first, 3 wins. I don't really know if there's too much to comment on about Spain other than they are the World Cup champions for a reason.
Yeah, this could be the first time we see someone win the Olympics after the World Cup, because color me convinced.
Amen.
That's all I'm going to say.
Amen. All right, let's talk Japan, and we'll leave Nigeria for last because Nigeria is the one team from this group that did not qualify to move on to the quarterfinals. Let's do Japan. They advanced second in this group. Japan's a tricky one, I have to say, but for better or worse, I think that they're having a really solid tournament so far, much better than I expected from Japan, much better than any performance I've seen from them since the World Cup. And listen, this is a team that I think they faced Spain in the group stage and they held up really well. They were up 1-0 at one point. To me, what that says is anything is possible. I think they're a little bit underrated right now going into the quarterfinals.
I would agree. I think looking at this group, I don't know if this was necessarily the strongest group of the three, like the strongest. I've heard some people say it's the strongest.
That's wild. It's got to be Group B. This Group B was absolutely the strongest.
To have USA and Germany, like two top 5.
Is what I'm saying, though.
Well, and Australia. But like
Australia.
To have 2 top 5 teams in the world in a group, that kind of is automatically going to make it like the best group in the tournament, in my opinion. Yeah. But this was definitely a group where you look at Spain, in my opinion, was always going to win this group.
Yeah.
When you look at Japan, Brazil, and Nigeria, I think really all 3 of these teams could have finished in last. Yep. Right? Any one of these teams could have finished in last, and that would have been maybe more or less surprising for some, but not like with outside of the realm of possibility and expectation, right? And so for Japan to come out second in this group, in overall what was a really deep group, I think is really impressive. And I think, like we mentioned for Canada, I think they've done a great job incorporating their bench players, that player 12 to 22 into their team, and really having those players involved and making a statement and just really getting the team chemistry down well. Have they had moments where I'm like, I'm a little bit bored, I'm a little bit falling asleep? Yeah, but this is tournament football, and that happens time to time. You want to be stout defensively. So I am hopeful for them going forward in general for this tournament. Obviously not against the US, but I think that they put together some really solid performances, and I think they can do some damage.
Best uniforms, best kits across everybody, I have to say.
I really like the Australia kits.
Oh, I think them this time. They're good.
Oh my God. I think those designs and shoulders are cool. I think like the etching, like the more like the Aboriginal etching kind of designs are really cool. A really cool touch.
I like it. It's just no Japan. All right, final team. We have to talk Nigeria. They are the one team of this group that don't make it. The Super Falcons. What is there to say about the Super Falcons? Honestly, right now that hasn't been said about them. They're a great team that has little to no funding, well-documented cases of players having to strike because they just haven't been paid in almost months, years. Head coach having to strike with them because he wasn't paid. Get these players some funding and everything will open up. This is one of the top teams in all of Africa and have been for a very long time. And I feel like they've plateaued for a while now, and that's why.
Yeah, I mean, and schedule these players some games like Nigeria and Zambia both. I think I saw it was only like since the end of the World Cup and the beginning of this tournament, they each only played like 6 games as a team.
That's crazy.
Schedule some games. I mean, I know there's a focus on not overloading players, but this is not that at all. Like, like you're never gonna be successful in these group stages if you're not going to play games as a team and develop that chemistry. So again, the players were like the federation failed the players. Like you said, this is a story that we've talked about a lot. I feel bad, but there's not much else to say.
All right. And finally, we have arrived. Predictions / previews of the quarterfinals. Let's go through these simply in chronological order of the way they're going to appear on our television screens on Saturday. Saturday, everybody, remember. And for those of you on the west coast of the US, my apologies because the first game is at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, noon in the UK. All of the rest of you have to do your own math for that. USA versus Japan is the first game. Tim, previews and predictions for the US. I'll go first for the next game. We'll alternate, but you go first for this one, and then we'll go back and forth.
Okay, first of all, I thought your mathing was impressive.
Thank you. I've lived on both coasts, so
that was
it helped.
On the spot. That was quick. It was sharp.
Appreciate it.
Kudos to you. I think, first of all, I work for all the other games except for this game, so I am just feeling some blessed energy because I can actually watch the US play of all the 4 games. What are the chances? I mean, they're 25%.
I'm happy for you, genuinely. I'm so happy for you. I was worried you weren't going to catch any of them.
My prediction is that the US takes this. I think that the US will just really start to layer in some of those coaching philosophies, some of those strategies that we haven't seen yet. And I think that I don't think they're going to blow out Japan by any means, but I do think they win this game. I think that, like you said before, Sarah, the front 3 of Soph Smith, Mel Swanson, and Trinity Rodman is just they're just a terror. Mm-hmm. And when you look at some defenses in this remaining group of teams, you look at a defense that those 3 can really feast on. I think that might be one of those defenses. So that's my prediction that US takes this one.
I also think that the US is going to take it. Surprise, surprise. I think it's going to be really hard. Like, this might be a 1-0 game, to be totally honest with you. Japan can sit in a low block if they want. And the US have a very hard time against everybody has a hard time against a low block. But I will say in the past, month, the US have proven that right now they have a hard time against a low block. So I think it's going to be really difficult. I think Rose Lavelle and the front 3 are going to have to shine as they always do. But I think the US will take it. I think it'll be kind of 1-0-ish. I'm really excited for this game because of the history between these two teams. Anytime these two teams come up against each other, it's a blast. There is so much history here. And for me, that just means anything can happen. And when you add the fact that it's in the Olympics, it just makes it so exciting.
Yeah, these two teams play each other a lot the last few years. So that's a great point.
Historical record between these two teams. US have won 31. They've drawn only once between these two, and the US have lost 8. So flip it, of course, for Japan. The US, of course, heavy on the wins, but like you just said, kind of in the past 9 years is when these two teams have played each other a lot. And that's kind of after Japan's golden era where they were able to, knock the US out of finals and everything like that. So it's been wonderful. And now this matchup just continues. All right. Second game, Spain versus Colombia. I mean, listen, it's going to be Spain. It's going to be Spain. I think I don't need to justify it. I'm guessing you feel the same.
We all know why. Yeah. Same. We all know why. They're incredible. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Colombia is going to put up a fight, but at some points, that ball's going in that net.
Yeah. I feel bad. I had that one that I went first. It was kind of the easy one. Do you want me to go first for the next one?
At this point, they're all good matchups.
That's true.
It's all the same thing.
Let's do it. Third game is Canada versus Germany.
Me first or you first?
I don't care. You pick.
Okay. I mean, I'll go first because you know me. I always like to go first. I think you know what I'm going to say.
I think you're going to say Canada. Yep.
I'm going to go with Canada. I think the world is looking at this game and being like, this is Germany's game to lose. And I think that just feeds into Canada's mentality right now. I think they're really thriving in that everyone wrote us off. Everyone is calling us cheaters. Again, we don't think that the players are cheaters.
Correct. But we do not.
But that is what they're using to fuel this fire inside them. And I think they're also going to layer that on to that, oh, no one thought we could make it this far. No one thinks we can beat Germany. And I think they're going to take it to them. I really do. I think it's going to be gritty. I think it's going to be physical. I think it's going to be tight. But I think Canada does this. I think Canada does this also because I think they want to beat the US so bad. And they're not going to get to the US if both them and the US don't make it to the next round. So I think they're just so hungry. And I think that's it.
You've convinced me that this might be the most contentious game of the four. And here's the thing. If Canada win, I think the Canada are going to win in overtime or pens. I think this is Germany's game. One of the biggest positives for Canada, other than the intangible, which I agree with you, if Canada's going to win, it's because of that intangible that they have right now. But the other positive that we talked about is their depth. And Germany is also deep. And it does kind of nullify Canada's depth a little bit. I just think that at the end of the day, Germany have played better football. If I'm going off of the last 3 games, I think Germany's shown that they're a better side right now. So I take Germany. All right, finally, France versus Brazil to close it all out. Oh, it's so boring of me, but I'm gonna take France. Brazil, I've said this on every single Olympics episode, have not convinced me. And it's sad because I do love the way Brazil plays, but not right now. I'm not feeling like what they're doing is first of all, it's not building on itself from game to game. And I don't think that when it's put up against France, they're going to be able to hold off. I think that their attack is something that France's defense can handle. It hasn't been very explosive. And I think that France are going to be able to break down their very young back line because Brazil has a very young back line. I think France are going to be able to break that down. I think it goes to France.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. I've been kind of back and forth, but I think what it comes down to is the Brazilian coaching is just not there for me. And Marta was essentially player coaching this team from the field. And now that she's not there, I do think that the players will kind of pull maybe similar, will get kind of fired up and want to win for Marta. And I think that will help. I just, like you said, I think that their offense has just been not potent enough. And then you take away the only thing that was giving them any degree of potency to begin with. And I think they'll probably plug and play Caroline, and she just doesn't have the minutes under her belt right now to really perform to
coming
the
off an
degree that you
ACL.
need.
It's a lot.
Like, is she great? Yeah. Has she put in some good minutes, some good shifts? Sure. But to be counted on to drive an attack in a knockout stage of a major international tournament, I just don't think that she's at that stage of her recovery process yet. And that's understandable. Like, that's really, like, it's a miracle and incredible that she's this far so soon. But I think this is Francis to lose, and we'll see what happens.
I will say this. Ludmila is having the tournament of a tournament. She is so fun to watch for Brazil. How she did not start the second group stage game is beyond me. When she came on the field, she changed everything. She was outstanding in this last group game. And if anybody's going to do some damage, and you're talking about Caroline putting the team on her shoulders, Ludmila has put the team on her shoulders and is going to need to again if Brazil has any chance against France. But I'm just excited to watch her work again because, oh my gosh, she is a fun one to watch. And rumor has it, is it confirmed? We're going to get to that.
I was going to say, it is 1000% confirmed. The team, like, by Ludmila, you mean actually her title is newest Chicago Red Stars signing, Ludmila.
What a
who
signing.
Again is the most recent signing this transfer window to the Chicago Red Stars. So excited. I think the pairing of her and Mallory Swanson in the attack is just going to be so fun. Like,
killer.
Mal Swanson has been, this is not the time to talk about this at all.
No.
But I think it's just going to be incredible. We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it another time. All right. And that is it, everybody. Games are on Saturday, which means we will see you all on Sunday for our roundup of the quarterfinal matches after they happen. But games on Saturday, and we will see you Sunday for the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
And I'm Tim.
Thanks, everybody.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.